Hey y'all, this is Marley K. Hope everybody is doing well. I have a few stories that I'm going to share. All of them are tied to the same particular topic. It's about the coming transition, the destruction of Mystery Babylon, which is America, the reinvention of Europe, maybe. Well, I'm going to say yes, the reinvention of Europe, and who actually controls the planet. You're getting ready to see. So keep in mind now, we are right now decoupling. We're going through this economic collapse, and America and the West, America and Europe, they have been in control of everything for a very hundreds of years, long time, through the sword, taking of resources, bribing of people, the scattering of people, the subjugation, domination, and extermination of peoples. So when you hear what is being said, you need to understand, you need to process all of this in context to what has been and what is coming, what has been prophesied and what has already happened, and what we are witnessing, what we are living through, and our expectations to be delivered from. So listen to this story real good, and then I'm going to do some background. So it says recently, a video of Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Council, has resurfaced of a speech she gave upon receiving an honorary doctorate degree at the Ben Gurion University of Negev in Israel in 2022. Von der Leyen, and this is a post from X, so it says von der Leyen embraces Talmudic values. Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission, stated that, quote, Europe has the values of the Talmud, not the Torah, not the Tanakh. She said Talmud. The Talmud is a central text of rabbinic Judaism, emphasizing values such as personal responsibility, justice, and solidarity. So I'm going to play this video. Hopefully it'll play.
Europe is the values of the Talmud, the Jewish sense of personal responsibility, of justice, and of solidarity.
Okay, so keep in mind, she said it. I didn't say it. Fair use. So it says, of course, her comments have predictably set off a firestorm of criticism, with many pointing out that the, quote, values, unquote, of the Talmud are completely at odds with the European values and are the basis of Jewish supremacism and the genocide of non-Jews. While these criticisms are certainly valid, there should be no doubt, however, that what von der Leyen is saying is true. That Europe today is under the boot heel of Jewish supremacists, and the, quote, values, unquote, of the, end quote, of the European Union, the new incarnation of the Judeo-Soviet Union, are indeed Talmudic, as she was careful to pronounce it correctly. However, the Talmud is not a universalist book. Rather, it teaches that the Goyim are mere animals who exist only to serve the Jews, and those who refuse will be killed at the whim of the Jews. Exactly what we saw with the Jewish-dominated Bolshevik takeover of Russia and Eastern Europe and the ensuing genocide. And if you think about this, it also coincides with with Revelation 13:14 or 13 to 18. I'm just saying, but basically the description of how with the no buy no sell system, if you do not serve them, if you do not go along with whatever plans they have, you won't be able to buy or sell. And if you refuse to keep the Sabbath or whatever day they tell you to worship or whatever thing they tell you to do, if you refuse, it'll be like you're disobeying the Talmud, and they will persecute you. And these are the people that they're talking about. So take note. The Talmud teaches that there is a separate justice system for Jews and another for the Goyim. Jews can be judged only by their fellow Jews, which is, it should be replace Jews with Israelites, and that's what it should be, and converts, but not in the context with the Talmud. So the Talmud has taken from the Torah and created a whole different set of rules, kind of like Christianity and Catholicism, Islam. Everybody is taken from the Torah and says their rules and culture and justice system are supreme, but nobody acknowledges where their history came from. If you just trace back to how long people have been around, how long books have been around, where things came from, everybody has to give credit to the Torah or the Tanakh. And again, this is one of those stories where you have to really understand history, know your history. If you're just basing something, if you're here and you're a Christian, you're not going to understand, and you're going to want to be combative. And I don't even have time for that, because we're at the end. And so the only thing I can say is you should really read the Old Testament, get wisdom, understand what's happening, and try to be in some of the awakened spaces with the people who kind of are reading history books and learning about the greatest deception in the history of mankind, the identity thieves. Other than that, I can't help you. Anyway. And the Talmud does indeed teach solidarity, but only among Jews, while any solidarity among the lowly Goyim is demonized as racist, Nazi, and dangerous. So if you are not an Ish person and you expect solidarity with them, then you're stupid. But we wouldn't know that, because guess what? They never teach us about their values. They know about all about our values, because we don't study nobody. We don't be sitting around trying to figure out how we going to keep people in captivity and keep them stupid and keep them from who they are because we stole their identity. We don't do that. So that's one reason we don't know. Two, the rest of the world has helped them do it. So that's the other reason we don't know. And number three, it explains why black people don't have any friends. It explains why, when I say black people, so-called black people, African American black people, and the descendants of chattel slavery, all in the Western Hemisphere, and those who are scattered throughout the planet, scattered Israelites. It explains why nothing that we do is successful, because we partner with people, we ally with people who have the intention to not ally with us, and we join movements created by these people when their whole goal is to make sure we are confused and not able to have solidarity, not even amongst ourselves. So it's very interesting that all this stuff is coming out. So anyway, all modern European values arise from the lessons the Goyim are forced to learn from the fate. I can't say none of this stuff in this paragraph right here, because it'll probably get me in trouble. So I'm not going to read that, but if you'd like to read it, the link to this will be in the comment section, not in the description. In this new Talmudic Europe, the suffering of Christ on the cross has been dismantled and replaced with the I'm not going to say the word, suffering of the Jews at Auschwitz. Now it's the Jews who have risen from the dead, not Christ. And the Talmudic Jews no longer hold just the Germans responsible for that suffering. Now it's every white man is now morally responsible, and our sentence from these rabbis is unequivocally death. So if you are white, perhaps the Gentile cleaving unto us, this will help you understand why it just looks like only the European nations are being destroyed, and it's intentional because you are the target. So that's why they have all these interracial things going on, and migration issues. Everybody got a mix because the goal is to get rid of white people. So this is kind of along those lines. So this is a tweet from Abraham Bergman. And it says, every white man is responsible for how Jews were persecuted in World War II and always will be. And then it says, it is only karma that the white race should be eliminated. Even the Talmud states this, that all goyim should be eliminated. And that is kind of how the Bible also says that. The Torah, I say Bible, Torah. The Torah says that the Esau will be destroyed. So when the Most High comes back and judges the planet, Edom will be destroyed. Edom, they're all the same people, but they're trying to pretend like they're not. They want to be something different, like they're from Africa, where the real people, real chosen people are. They don't even have the bloodline, the DNA to say this, but you can't talk about it because just can't talk about it. Anyway, listen to these two Talmudic rabbis unapologetically explain what is in store for the white European people. Now I'm gonna play this. Fair use, fair use, fair use. It is not me.
Le Mashiach viendra que quand Édom, l'Europe, la chrétienté sera totalement tombée. Donc je vous pose la question, c'est une bonne nouvelle que l'islam envahisse l'Europe? C'est une excellente nouvelle, ça annonce l'envie de Mashiach. Excellente nouvelle. Vous allez le payer très cher, les Européens. Mais à un point, vous n'avez même pas notion de quoi on parle. Et vous n'aurez pas au fuir. Parce que tout le mal que vous avez fait à Israël, vous le paierez au centuple. Quand l'Italie disparaîtra, quand Édom, c'est pour ça que le QG de la chrétienté qui vient de Esav se trouve là-bas, quand cet endroit-là disparaîtra, et c'est ce que veut faire l'islam, il s'occupe. L'islam, c'est le balai d'Israël, sachez-le. Il s'occupe. L'islam, c'est le balai d'Israël, sachez-le.
L'islam, c'est le balai d'Israël, sachez-le.
All right. So again, if you'd like to see this video that has subheadings or captions, so you can look at it. It'll be, the link to this will be in the comment section, not in the description. So it says, I'm not gonna. Okay, well I guess I'll read it. So it says, quote, "The Jewish Messiah will return once, only once. Edom, Europe, Christianity will be destroyed." So I ask you, is it good news that Islam invades Europe? It is excellent news. It means the coming of the Messiah. Excellent news. And so, end quote. And then Rabbi Toito states, "You will pay dearly for it, Europeans. To such an extent, you have no idea," says Rabbi Toito. "And you will have no place to run, because all the evil you have done to Israel, you will pay for it 100-fold. When Italy will be gone, when Edom, that is why the Christianity's headquarters, which come from Hassal, is there." I don't know what Hassal is. "And when that place will be gone, and that's what Islam is going to do. Islam is the broom of Israel. You have to know it." So when we sit back and we look and see what's going on, this is another reason why you need to mind your damn business, black people. These white people is fighting. We can't do nothing. Mind your business and be quiet. Mind black business. Mind Israelite business. Okay? So, today's sophisticated and progressive Europeans have thrown off the yoke of Christian superstitions of their ancestors and embraced and their ancestors to, I guess, mean the Roman Empire, Greco-Roman Empire, Europeans, Italy, whatever. And the reason that Italy has to be destroyed is because that's where the Vatican is. So, okay, so it says superstitions of their ancestors and embrace the enlightened liberalism of the Jews. So understand this. When you are referring to liberalism, if you're calling yourself a liberal, you're agreeing with the Talmud and the ways of the Talmud and understanding that that term comes from the Jews, as most surveys shown that Western Europeans now largely identify as atheists or agnostics. And that's intentional because you're having these different religious wars that are intentional to hide the fact that they're not the people, we're the people. And just, it's crazy. And when you start understanding what's going on, it's just wild. So it says, in his book, The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, E. Michael Jones pointed out that 100 years after the French Revolution, the Catholic Church issued a statement that the most important lesson about the revolution was that a nation that refuses to be ruled by Christians is destined to be ruled by Jews. Okay? Are we clear? All right. If the Jews were to finally achieve their vain dream of unopposed world power, none of us will be spared from the Talmudic wrath and murderous vengeance, as Martin Luther warned 500 years ago. Quote, if they had the power to do to us what we are able to do to them, not one of us would live for an hour. But since they lack the power to do this publicly, they remain our daily murderers and bloodthirsty foes in their hearts. End quote. So this came from Martin Luther on The Jews and Their Lies, page 141. I'm going to have to go look that book up. But anyway. And the Judas Goat and the Shabbos Goy, Ursula von der Leyen, is more than willing to help these Jews achieve that Talmudic pipe dream, as she has been groomed for her role from her earliest days. Her German ancestors were enormously wealthy merchants in both Europe and America, which included one of the biggest Gentile slave traders in Charleston, South Carolina, the seat of Jewish wealth and power in the South, and, quote, no Gentiles, end quote, traded slaves without dealing with the Jews who controlled that lucrative enterprise. So no doubt her family has financially benefited from the long-standing relationship with the Jewish merchant class at the expense of their own people. It ain't their own people, because we ain't they people. We not like them, and they not like us. That's what people don't understand. The perfect background for someone to be smiling, genteel face of the to be the perfect background for someone to be the smiling, genteel face of the Jewish-dominated EU. In her disastrous role as the German defense minister, one of her political mentors was Angela Merkel, who admitted that she flooded Germany with third world migrants as a personal favor to her Jewish puppet masters. Her failure as defense minister apparently made her the ideal candidate to become the next president of the European Council, as former European Parliament President Martin Schulz ironically quipped. Quote, von der Leyen is our weakest minister. That's apparently enough to become commission president, end quote. The Jews have installed this weak, incompetent feminist as the Jews have installed these weak, incompetent feminists as leaders all across the EU to demoralize and further emasculate the men while they puppet the orders given to them by their Talmudic advisors. Quote, it was always the women, above all the young ones, who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of slogans, the amateur spies. That came from George Orwell in 1984, his book 1984. And so if you look at what's happening today, the quote is true. It is the women who have sold us down the river for a very long time, including Israelite women. When we took welfare over the men, when we fell to all their devices, when we followed their culture, when we joined the civil rights movement, when we were active in Christianity, indoctrinated with public education versus our own culture, our own education, our own music. Like, it's just so much. When you start thinking about everything that has happened to our people, and you look at all the changes, and you can see the change in our community, you go back to the NAACP and who founded it. It was the Jewish people. They funded it and they put a black person at the head of it, and it's been like that ever since. Look at the Congressional Black Caucus. Same thing. This is just a shadow. It's a beard. Every organization has been infiltrated by those people, either by money or by raccoons or by politicians who pretend to do the bidding of the people, and they either play one side, liberal or conservative. It doesn't matter when it comes to team hating us. Everybody is on the same agenda when it comes to benign neglect, keeping that secret about us. So anyway, I'm going to put this story in the description. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is talk about the Talmud versus the Torah. So this comes from the Jewish Virtual Library, and this is their source, so don't shoot the messenger. Okay, so let me go back to where I saw this. So they have some stuff in here I don't necessarily want to share because it's really not important. But let me start here. So it says the oral law is a legal commentary on the Torah. So the Talmud is the oral law, and the Jewish folks is legal commentary on the Torah. It was not written by Israelites. It was written by these people, the Ashkenaz, the converts, explaining how its commandments are to be carried out. Common sense suggests that some sort of oral tradition always needed to accompany the written law, because the Torah alone, even with its 613 commandments, is an insufficient guide to Jewish life. For example, the fourth of the 10 commandments ordains, remember the Sabbath to make it holy, Exodus 28. From the Sabbath's inclusion in the 10 commandments, it is clear that the Torah regards it as an important holiday. It's not a holiday, it's just a day of rest. Yet when one looks for the specific biblical laws regulating how to observe the day, one finds only injunctions against lighting a fire, going away from one's dwelling, cutting down a tree, plowing, and harvesting. Would merely refraining from these activities fulfill the biblical command to make the Sabbath holy? Indeed, the Sabbath rituals that are mostly common associated with holiness, lighting of candles, reciting the Kiddush, and the reading of the weekly Torah portion, are found not in the Torah, but in the oral law. So when they talk about oral law, it's things that they have interpreted from the Torah. It's their interpretation of the Torah, which, in my opinion, You should be like, kick rocks. I ain't listening to you. I'll just figure it out myself. And the reason, and let me explain this to y'all. The reason that they have to do this is because they're imposters. Most High isn't talking to them, even though they know the law well, because they studied us for years before they converted and stole our identity. They know right from wrong. They know the Torah. They know everything. They know more than we know. But they refuse to do it because they worship other things. They have their own rules. They have perverted the Torah with their oral law. And so with that, we don't need an oral law because we have DNA connection to the Most High. We receive the Ruach, and it immediately translates what we need to know, or it puts somebody in our path who can answer a question. And because we're the people, we are connected, just spiritually. It's natural. That's nobody else on the planet has that except for Yah's people, the Israelites, and we are hidden. So, they want to be the experts on the Torah, but it was never written for them. It's not for them. So it's just very interesting when you start getting into all of this. So it says, without an oral tradition, some of the Torah's laws would be incomprehensible. So I'm not gonna go into all this, but I want to go into the history. Okay, so it says, during the centuries following Rabbi Judah's editing of the Mishnah, it was studied exhaustively by generation after generation of rabbis. Eventually, some of the rabbis wrote down their discussions and commentaries on the Mishnah's laws in a series of books known as the Talmud. So this is where the Talmud came from. It did not come from Moshe or Moses or any other prophets of that time. It's not the word of the Most High. This is them folks stuff. So, it's interesting. You have to know the history of nations, of people, to understand what is written here. And because it's these people, you can't talk about them. So there's certain things I can and cannot say. I'm gonna read one more thing, and then I'm gonna leave this discussion here. But I advise you to read this closely. So it says, during the centuries following, I already read that. So it says, the rabbis of Palestine edited their discussions of the Mishnah about the year 400. Notice they stuck on that because what does that mean? Their work became known as the Palestinian Talmud. In Hebrew, Talmud Yerushalayim, which literally means Jerusalem Talmud. Whatever. So this is more than a century later. Some of the leading Babylonian rabbis. Now, I said Babylonian. Did y'all hear me? That right there should make you run for your life. But it also explains why in the Bible it talks about mystery Babylon. Babylon is hidden. And the reason that is hidden is because these people are everywhere, but they're nowhere. And they change their names, and they create laws, and they buy governments, and they buy kings, and they just do all sorts of things to just destroy and confuse. Babylon is associated with confusion, the Tower of Babel. And these people are still around today, which is, and notice, they're clinging to who? White people, Europeans. And this is our dilemma. So this is why, it's very hard to talk about allying. This is why allyship never works, because these people are Babylonians. And there is no way you can get around it. This is their own words. So this is more than a century later. Some of the leading Babylonian rabbis compiled another editing of discussions on the Mishnah. By then, these deliberations had been going on some 300 years. The Babylon edition was far more extensive than its Palestinian counterpart, so that the Babylonian Talmud became the most authoritative compilation of the oral law. So this Babylonian translation was used in accompaniment with the Torah, which is why people are so screwed up today. When people speak of studying the Talmud, they almost invariably mean the Bavli rather than the Yerushalmi. So one of them, I guess, was Hebrew, and this one ain't Hebrew. It's doggone Babylonian. So, run, hey, run for your life. Hey, run for your life. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Whew, boy. Okay, so the Talmud's discussions are recorded in a consistent format. A law from the Mishnah is cited, which is followed by rabbinic deliberations on its meaning. The Mishnah and the rabbinic discussions, known as the Gemara, comprise the Talmud. Although in Jewish life, the term Gemara and Talmud usually are used interchangeably. So, it says the rabbis whose views are cited in the Mishnah are known as Tanaim, or Aramaic for teachers, and that's Aramaic is supposed to be the language that the Messiah spoke when he was on earth, while the rabbis quoted in the Gemara are known as the Amoraim, explainers or interpreters. Because the Tanaim lived earlier than the Amoraim and thus were in closer proximity to Moses and the revelation at Sinai, their teachings are considered more authoritative than those in the Amoraim. For the same reason, Jewish tradition generally regards the teachings of the Amoraim, insofar as they are expounding the oral law, as more authoritative than contemporary rabbinic teachings. So, in addition to extensive legal discussions in Hebrew, and when they say Hebrew, they mean modern Hebrew, not the ancient Hebrew, the rabbis incorporated into the Talmud guidance on ethical matters, medical advice, historical information, and folklore, which together are known as Agadata. So now, I ain't said none of this. This stuff is on the internet at the Jewish Virtual Library. So one last thing before I leave this page. So it says, among religious Jews, Talmudic scholars are regarded with the same awe and respect with which secular society regards Nobel laureates. Yet throughout Jewish history, study of the Mishnah and Talmud was hardly restricted to an intellectual elite. An old book saved from the millions burned by the Nazis and now housed at the Yevo Library in New York bears the stamp, the Society of Woodchoppers for the Study of Mishnah in Berdichev. That the men who chopped the wood in Berdichev, an arduous job that required no literacy, met regularly to study Jewish law demonstrates the ongoing pervasiveness of study of the oral law in the Jewish community. So, this source came from Jewish literacy. The most important things to know about the Jewish religion, its people, and its history. New York, William Morrow and Company, 1991, reprinted by permission of the author. Fair use. Okay. So, I'm going to click on Talmud. Let's see what happens when I click on it. It seems like nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Okay, so when you click on this link, it gives you the Babylonian Talmud. And because it says Babylonian, you should get your ass out of here if you're an Israelite. Like right away. Run for your life. We don't want no parts of this. Except for, I'm not opposed to learning. So for me, because I know it's Babylonian, first of all, I'm just really not interested in it at all. But what is interesting is, necessary is to have understanding about the plans of the adversary. So that would be the only reason that I'd be like, yeah, you should read it. You should do whatever. But we already know what happened to us about Babylon. I don't want to get spanked no more. So I really try to stay away from this stuff. These people, like the old black folks say, they work roots and magic and do all kind of stuff. We are not supposed to be around. So the fact that we know they entertain Babylonian stuff, we need to get on up our chair. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to share before I go is a story from the grunge. And that particular story was about the difference between the Torah and the Talmud. And I found it interesting because it came out in 2022. And this is kind of when the plans of the WEF and everybody, started picking up like, hey, something is going on. That's when we start hearing more about the New World Order, who's in charge of it, where those people came from, and everything started making sense. So keep in mind that the people we're talking about control the airways, they control the money, they control everything, propaganda. They created it. They work magic. So once you know what you know, everything else makes sense when you fall upon some stuff. So this is from the grunge. And the title of it says the Torah and the Talmud. What's the difference? Dated July 21st, 2022. So it says, according to history, Judaism is the world's oldest monotheistic religion on record and dates back as far as 4,000 years ago. Well, I hate to say Judaism because they give these names and they confuse people. I hate to use their names because they've stolen the names, they've changed the definitions, and therefore what we mean and what they mean are two totally different things. So it says, unlike the Christ-focused approach of Christianity/Catholicism, the Jewish people believe that their Messiah has yet has yet been revealed to the inhabitants of the earth. But that's not what we believe. We believe the Messiah already came and that he's coming back to judge. And they just forgetting the judgment part. They think he coming back to rescue them. But no, he coming back to whoop everybody ass. And the people who supposed to get the ass whooping don't want the ass whooping. So they trying to act like the ass whooping ain't coming. And they just coming for the first time to deliver them and enjoy this third temple. These people crazy. Okay. Anyway, between the U.S. and Israel, the two most prominent conglomerations of Jews in the world, there are about 14 million practitioners of the ancient religion. But really, it's not a religion. It was the culture and ways of the people that came from the Most High after they were delivered from Egypt. So if you listen at how this stuff is described, it's like, So anyway, some people talk about the Old Testament and the New Testament in regard to the Christian religion. And Judaism has a similar convergence of manuscripts in its own way, though there are obvious differences. So it says the Torah and the Talmud are the two pillars of Jewish religion. You may have heard of them mentioned in passing, but some wonder what the difference is between the two. Yes, they're independent documents, but they also work in conjunction with oh, okay, with each other. All right, go back and find it. So what does Talmud say? The function of the Talmud is, for all intents and purposes, to provide a rudimentary starting point for Jewish practice. It's rich with history, fundamental laws, outlooks, and traditions. The idea behind studying the Talmud is essentially to study it as opposed to explicitly practicing it. The English translation of the Hebrew word Talmud is learning. So if you're looking to start practicing Judaism, here's where you'd likely start. So what does the Torah say? Now let's talk about the Torah, which is the document you've probably heard mentioned most often. The Torah, or the 5 books of Moses, is the Jewish equivalent of the Old Testament in Christianity. It's where the rubber hits the road as far as practical application goes. It contains all traditions in the Jewish religion and is often considered the Bible of Judaism. It actually outlines the biblical chapters of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. In the English translation of the word Torah is instruction. And so basically, this was for the Israelites. It was, originally given to the Israelites once they were delivered from Egypt by Moses on the tablets. And then the priests and the elders and the teachers got together and they studied the law and created the ordinances and so on and so forth to govern the Israelites. It was not for the whole world. Once it was stolen, we were studied, stolen, conquered. People took the Torah from the Israelites because they understand that the blessings were with them when they were obedient. And when they were disobedient, they lost. They were just whooped on. They were easily to be spoiled, conquered. So once they figured that out, and probably some raccoons helped them, everything was Hellenized, and here we are today. That's simplest way to put it. So it says Britannica explains that the Torah is God's revealed teaching or guidance for humankind, which it is. But he gave it to the Israelites to teach to the world. But we couldn't teach it because we too busy chasing behind Beck and them. Beck and Chad and eating leeks and pig and whatever the Most High told us not to eat. Catfish. Just going on a tangent here. Again, this is where tangible practice comes in, and readings are often referenced during ceremonies at synagogues. There are certain factions of Judaic practice that actually declare the Torah as the more important of the two documents, though perspectives vary across the entirety of the faith at large. So, anyway, I just want to give you this background about the Talmud and the difference between the Talmud and the Torah so that you can understand that Europe is basically going back or outing itself as using the Babylonian Talmud as their values. And it the European Union leader said they have the values of the Talmud. When you think about it, our leaders have done the same thing, which is why APAC runs all of the legislators in our states and in our local governments and in Congress. So, voila, here we are. And this is where we're going. This is why America has to be destroyed and it's being looted. And this is why we are getting ready to have the Noahide laws. Hopefully you know about them. I've done a couple of videos about them folk. Not many, but especially about the Noahide laws and what's coming. Especially for our people. And this is why we are hated. This is why our boys are a problem for them, even though our boys don't even know who they are, don't even know they exist, don't even know what a Jewish person is, most of them. So when you start putting this stuff together and seeing what's happening in the world, it explains so much. But we got the Most High coming back to judge them and us. And so we need to be living right and praying that the Most High avenges us and this planet, avenges on behalf of us, because we don't have the power physically to do anything to these people, because they have so much control over everything, including people who have control over things that they fear. The people who are in control fear them, so they'll harm us to save themselves. And this is a very dangerous time for all of us, but especially for white people. White people, y'all are in trouble in so many ways. The devil wants you, and the Most High wants you. So you gotta pick your spanking you gonna get. It's just devastating watching and seeing all these different agendas play out and see how complex everything is, how people just don't really understand what is going on in the world and why these things are happening to us. But what we have to remember is we are not in control. We need to learn, we need to understand the devices of our enemies so that we will not be ensnared. And this is part of what I'm doing, talking about this so that we understand this new world order is for them. They need a new world order, so they got to destroy this and destroy us. And this is what all this migration is about. This is what all this hate is about. This is what all these divisions are about. Everything at the end of the day is about those folks keeping their identity, keeping their control, and enslaving the whole entire planet. They are not good people. Not all of them. These ones that they talking about, the Babylon ones that follow the Babylonian Talmud, them ones, the Zionists, them ones. Those are not good people. And we just need to be aware of what's happening. And again, this is the other benefit of setting yourself apart. Because when this stuff starts happening to them folk, they're not going to understand because they don't have the wisdom and knowledge and understanding. They got liberalism and ways from the Babylonian Talmud. because they don't know who they've been following. They follow Christianity, and Christianity is what? Same thing. So anyway, please leave your comments in the comment section if you have any questions, if you have any comments. Again, I'll put links to all of these things in the comment section. Hopefully the comment won't get erased or the video won't get hidden so you can see it. I've been seeing a lot of videos in a lot of different places where, people are starting to tell the truth and it's no longer hidden. I question why, but in any event, we need to know about this stuff that's coming down the pipe, and we need to know who is responsible so that you will not partner with the wrong people, so that you will not help the wrong people, so you won't trust the wrong people, because we have been studied like crazy and people know our psychological makeup. They know how we move. They know what things to say. So when you start understanding how deep this rabbit hole is, you understand being set apart and getting into that Bible and reading that word for yourself and understanding what you are and what you are not supposed to do, who you are supposed to, associate with and who you're not supposed to associate with, how you're supposed to treat your brother versus how you treat the stranger. Everything just makes sense. So again, try to live set apart. Mind African American business. I can't even say black because all black people ain't the same. Even those who are Israelites. There's some Israelites who act like Gentiles. So when you live set apart and you get that Ruach, the Holy Spirit, it quickens you. It lets you know stuff, and right off the bat. So this is not a time to be sitting around thinking you know everything, being argumentative with people. There are so many things that we don't know. I learn stuff every single day. And I am just amazed that, I'm blessed to be able to catch some of it, but I am. So I just want y'all to make sure you are paying attention to what's happening. When you see some folks, the folks are fighting themselves. When you see folks getting what they deserve, stay out the way. Don't have no opinion. Ain't no good. Sometimes there ain't no good guys. Like Dr. John Henry Clark said, sometimes it ain't no good guys. This is one of those times. So if you call yourself taking a side or minding your business, you might be preventing somebody from receiving their judgment. You may be helping somebody live another day that ain't supposed to be here. That might be the way that the Most High chose for these people to receive their judgment. So stand back and let the Most High work, because he can use anyone, any situation, anything to move on our behalf. So make sure you do that. And then make sure you pay attention to these snakes and just pay attention to what these people are saying and doing. But understand where it's all coming from and where it's all leading. And stay out of the way. Alright, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification so that you will be notified each and every time I upload new content. Follow me on Odyssey, Rumble, and on Instagram. The links are in the description. If you'd like to support the channel financially, my Venmo and my Coffee links are in the description box. This channel is not sponsored by anyone, and I am not compensated for anything that I do. I just read stuff and I bring it to you. So if you like to support the channel, if you like the work, if you like the content and the topics that tie into things that impact our people personally, give me a like, share the video out, and also consider supporting the channel. Lastly, continue to prep, continue to pray, continue to seek the Most High, obey those laws, statutes, and commandments, keep that Sabbath, repent daily for sins of commission and sins of omission. I can't stress enough how much we need to read and study and learn about history, learn about the adversaries' tricks and tools throughout history, because they're still using the same stuff they've been using. Nothing has changed. What is different is that we're studying, we're spreading the word, and we're trying to stay out of the adversary's way. So, that said, I am out of here. Links for these stories will be in the description.